instead of just saying new T hangars as constructed, I think the better description is necessary as far as, you know, is it gonna be 41 through 47 for the 6? You said you're gonna talk at a board meeting, that's fine, as long as you come back and figure out how we're gonna handle it, but just some better classification or numbering system there.
Well,
It's
in
not
other
really a
words,
question.
these are the wrong numbers anyway, it's on here, but has it been numbered yet? Who's responsible for numbering the hangars?
It's probably gonna be, I mean, the T hangars right now go 29, 30, 31, 32, and then they start off at 38, 39, 40, 41. So there's a gap in there. But whoever put that gap in there didn't leave enough room for 60 hangars, they left enough room for 5. So it's gonna be 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and then something else. 37A,
42.
I don't think we better be doing any more of this A and B stuff on the property.
Well,
Okay,
what's between
it's
37
confusing.
and 38?
Their tax bills, these two gentlemen over here, the taxes.
May I suggest you handle this topic at the next airport commission meeting
Sure.
and come back to us on that?
Even if there's what, 54 hangars out there? Totally. What's the highest number of hangar right now?
68.
68. So if you pick 69 through 75, and then you fill in these other ones somewhere, I mean, to me, it would make sense not to have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, the rows generally increase in numbers and go down. So, I mean, you have 29, 30, 31, 32, and then what would be the next one? Logically, be 33.
I think that's your guys' decision to make, and just let us know how you number them. I don't think we care how you number that. It's done. My next question on this is the last paragraph on the page 1. This kind of goes to B on the lease term. Per my request, Jonathan, you rewrote the termination clause. So it wasn't open-ended, somebody couldn't terminate and leave the airport stuck for unpaid rent potentially. You put in clauses about covering that, okay? But on lease B, the storage area lease, the lease term there in the termination part of it is much more detailed than here. My question is, why is that? Why aren't we consistent with our termination throughout the contract?
The storage one is, I'm just saying that the T hangar, right? The storage is the T hangars.
No,
Well, where's the storage?
storage is a half a T hanger. It's the end of.
Well, that's what I mean, it's in the T
Is
hangar
it,
building.
just for clarity, is it like when you have an apartment, you might have a storage bin in the basement of the apartment? Is that kind of what this is like? You have a hangar, but you
It's a
have
half a
storage?
T hanger.
At the end of a row.
Right, but if you have a hangar, you also have the rights to some part of that storage area?
No.
So can
It's
you
a separate
explain?
rentable unit.
We're getting off of this one, but it's important. So what is the storage area?
It's a separate rentable unit. It's the size.
One person can rent the whole thing.
Right.
Correct.
It's the size of a half a T hanger.
But it doesn't require an airplane to be kept in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
I think that's the main.
Understood. Why do we have separate wording for the termination clauses? Why aren't they all
Between the
this
T
way?
hanger storage and then the T hanger
Why
base.
aren't they all either this or that? I don't care which one. Why is it not consistent?
I don't have an answer for you on that. I basically take the feedback and make the changes.
Which one are you looking at, the B?
I'm looking at the paragraph, last paragraph on page 1 of B, and the last paragraph on page 1 of E. And to me, it doesn't matter which one it is. I think they both accomplish the same thing. At the end of the day, one says they can, you know, with approval from the town board, leaseor, they can cancel, and then I guess we work out whatever penalties there are. The other one is very detailed on what exactly that is. Just from my experience with contracts, I prefer the one that's worded in B. I'm fine. I just don't understand why we're not trying to make stuff as consistent as possible, why we have two different. So if you could look into that. That'd be great. Yes.
It really doesn't matter which one it is. make them the same, I agree with that.
It's just, both of them correct the prior leases where somebody could terminate and just leave and wouldn't be subject to paying the rest of their lease or anything like that, which could potentially harm the airport from a revenue standpoint. So on page 2 of the T hangar lease for new occupants, which is E, you're gonna get me the fee schedule, so that was one question, that's off the table. The next paragraph, rent is due on the first business day of each month. 12 monthly payments in advance is encouraged but not required. No discount for early payment. A late fee of $25 or 5% of the unpaid rent, whichever is greater, shall be charged for any rent not received within 5 days of due date. Is this a monthly late fee or a one-time? I think we just need to, is that monthly?
Don't make it one time, because I've got.
It would be-
Well, I agree.
The way I read it would be monthly, but if you want that to be.
I think
No.
entirely specific.
I think we need to delineate,
Mhm.
define that more.
You want it monthly? Monthly.
So to that point, if 12 months payment in advance, is encouraged but not required. Okay, gotcha.
But I don't want monthly payments, quarterly or semi or yearly. So I don't want to deal with monthly payments.
Then we need to change that. This whole thing needs to be changed.
I mean, that was one of the recommendations that I put in, that I submitted.
Because right now it says rent is due first day of each month.
What did we decide the other day for the meeting?
I think we covered that at the meeting Monday.
12 months.
I thought
Or
you-
12,
You're
yeah,
gonna
12 months, 1 year,
12 months, you're trying to do a yearly payment.
yearly.
So it's, right now it says 12 months in advance is encouraged but not required. You want to make it required. It's an annual fee then, payable once a year.
I think quarterly, I mean, I'm the one who has to deal with the book, so I mean, quarterly is fine, I just don't want it monthly.
I think it's a lot cleaner and less work if it's once a year, but that's just my opinion. Right. So we just need to know how to ask Jonathan to write it, so.
If you're gonna make it yearly, shouldn't you maybe give a little bit more grace period, because it's much easier to forget something that's due once a year, and maybe 15 days would be more like it for once a year.
I think that's a good suggestion. I think 5 days is kind of, I'm okay changing that to 15 days.
Josh?
You guys?
15 days for what?
Grace period.
Received within 15 days of the due date.
instead of 5.
So how much time, let's play this out from a billing standpoint. I'm renting a T hangar. My payment is due May 1st. Do you send an invoice out that says, hey, let's say April 1st, do you send out anything that says May 1st, your next payment is due? Or are they just responsible to know?
I send out one invoice per year. If they want to pay quarterly, they can pay quarterly,
Okay.
but I only send it out once a year.
So, quarterly, annually, I think we're okay with whatever. What do you guys, you wanna talk
Well,
about that?
then I just wrote it down in the meeting, we'll discuss that.
And get back
Another
to us.
option is to ask for a 3-month deposit, like when you rent something, so the 3 months are paid off. That's your deposit, so you forget to pay your rent, you actually have 3 months to figure it out, right?
So you get back to us on
Yeah.
whether you want quarterly or annually as well.
We're fine with quarterly, to solve the problem with the late fee. We could ask for a deposit on the place, which is actually like, if he wants to bill every 3 months, then I would say, let's go, I don't know, the board has to make the decision, but I'd want 3 months of security deposit.
I think there's terminology in there on, for, they put paying is like a
15 days,
60-day or 90-day
yeah.
term.
Well, there's something about 60 days.
But you can eliminate that if you have a security, you have a deposit, 3 months in advance, right?
They did it
That's the-
differently.
Don't call it security deposit, just say you will pay 3 months in advance, and if you're not paying your bills, you got 3 months, and then you're gone.
So that's gonna be the hard, if you said, let's just use April 1st, you send out an invoice for the next 12 months, right? And their renewal is actually there's no, like, what we need to do is twofold, is within the window of the initial renewal,
Right.
because somebody may look at it and say quarterly is within 3 months of the renewal, right? Versus 4 months of the renewal, you know, so having a 30-day default window in there, it would have to be, first payment is due on date X, subsequent payments could be made quarterly, type of thing. So that there's clarity in there that the due date is the due date, the installments can then be made quarterly. Because otherwise, they would have 2 months and 3.5 weeks to get you a payment for the first quarter. If quarterly payments
They're
are
paying ahead, they're not paying in arrears.
not the way that this is written. Right now, it says monthly payments are allowed. So that's, again, the difference between practice and procedure, is that the practice and procedure are different right now. This says monthly, and they can make monthly installments, but you're saying they're paying ahead, which would mean their payment would need to be due, but if they're making quarterly payments, there's 2 months in there that don't jive with the terms of what this lease agreement says.
I'm just telling you what I've worked out with them. I've got everybody is paying yearly. The storage units get paid quarterly.
And that's fine what you got worked out. In my, going a number of years of dealing with contracts, one thing we always discuss with people is, we may get along, we may agree on things, okay? But a contract is a legal document. It should be written as if you and I, and none of us are here. Who reading the contract, how are they gonna proceed, and how are they gonna manage the contract? I mean, we all know how to do things and how things have worked, and it's worked okay, right? But contracts are legal documents, so assume that somebody who's not here today is gonna be having to deal with it and work through it. So we have to just be as clear as possible.
I mean, T-hangers are on a annual basis, or January, you know, they're not on the June. I mean, the land leases are on.
Well, this is, what we're talking about right now
T-hanger
is the
leases.
T-hanger lease.
Yeah, that's a calendar year, so they start out January 1.
So, Cal and Jeff, if you wanna discuss this at the upcoming
We will.
commission meeting and get back to us on what kind of payment schedule you want, if it's annually or quarterly.
Right.
Unless you wanna agree on it now. Let's
We
get
can
back
agree
to
on it
us.
now. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
We'll meet, we'll do our discussions, and based on the knowledge that we have now, we'll ask for quarterly installments, right, or payments. If somebody pays early, they pay early, I don't care.
So when you say quarterly, are you talking about the hangar leases or the T-hanger leases?
T-hanger leases.
T-hanger.
You accept quarterly?
Correct.
Now, what do you want going forward? That's what you have to decide.
Quarterly is
Quarterly.
I just don't want to deal with
Quarterly.
monthly.
But you send out an annual, a 12-month invoice to them. So we gotta make sure that we stack the date, the initial due date, and then supplemental or subsequent payments. So that, if you
January
said-
1, they are due at least for 3 months.
correct,
They
which
pay
would
by
say
January 1.
second installment due by April 1st, third installment due, like that type of thing, so that they understand that there's due dates. Initial payment, and then you can break it apart, or you can pay all of it, or you could potentially, I mean, that's the hard part with opening the payment window up, is that if you allow quarterly payments, somebody still may send you 4 checks. Like, you know, so that's.
If you look at the language, that's on your tax bill for your house every year, use that same language, whatever, and then adjust it to whatever time you need.
Correct, yeah, that's what. And then on the other side of this, we gotta make sure that the default goes along with this 11A,
And I'll talk to John.
failure to pay rent within 30 days after due date. We gotta make sure that it's either due date or subsequent installments type of thing. Because there's a 3-month window in there.
And you guys say quarterly, but you want us to go with quarterly, or do you wanna talk about it at the airport commission and get back to us?
Well, I would talk to Al, but he's the final authority, but it would be quarterly based on knowledge.
Still not answering my question.
What was the
Do you
question?
want us to have Jonathan write quarterly in there, or do you want to go back to us after your airport commission?
I would say quarterly is fine. It'll go. It'll
quarterly.
go.
That's fine.
We got 2 people here, so.
We can't vote, Fred, that would be illegal.
Okay, my next question is clause 7, maintenance of building. And I will admit up front that a lot of my questions are nitpicky. But again, it's about contracts and people are reading it who aren't here today. This says the leaseor, the town, shall maintain the structures owned by the town of Palmyra, which is all the hangars, right?
The T hangar.
Is that both the interior and exterior we're responsible for maintaining?
I would say,
Why would
it's-
it be
I would say, it's-
exterior?
I would say it's both, because if somebody damages the inside, they're supposed to be responsible for it.
Then it's not both.
Well, there's a difference between maintenance and damage. Like if you own a house and you're renting it out and somebody's head through the drywall, eventually you may have to fix it, but they still have to vacuum the carpet. Right, like there's a,
And so, John, I think we need more wording there to just differentiate on the interior what the leasees are responsible for and what the leaseors are responsible for. The way it reads now, we're responsible for everything.
Well, I think you are. I mean, it's the airport's building, so, I mean, if the garage door opener fails or the door falls off, I mean, that's the airport fixing it, it's not the individual.
But if his example of an apartment, if I destroy something in an apartment, it's gonna be my
Right,
responsibility.
well, that's damage, that's not maintenance.
That's why I'm saying we have to define this. That's exactly what I'm saying. Have a maintenance clause, negligence clause, whatever. That's all I'm saying, is define it, don't just leave it.
What do you boys think? All right?
You're doing a good job.
That's the last question I have on that one.
I mean, cause this, to a point, when I look counterintuitive, I know one of these has, and I think it's the hangar area leases, has a 5-foot strip around the building, mowing grass, plus out to the taxiway. Like, to me, that's maintenance as much as anything else, so to the point of maybe delineating or setting up the T hangar lease to a point, because I see there's a snow removal thing in the T hangar lease, where it's gonna mimic what's in the hangar area lease, so that they're similar where they can be and different where they need to be as far as defining the maintenance.
I want to clarify something.
We're good with-
Jonathan, you and I were talking about this, for the calendar year thing, it doesn't matter which one you're looking at. Because if I rented right now, the rent would be so much for the months of 25, and then correct me if I'm wrong, then the rent charge is different for 26, so that's why there's 2 lines in it.
Those fee schedules.
Well, yes, you're right. That's why there's 2 lines in it, that's
To that point, if we're gonna, obviously, that's a very good point, if somebody's gonna rent in June, you should put in some portion here with that language about prorated rent for the first year of rent.
What are we changing that, what did the board say on,
Are they all, does every contract have a different term based on, or is it, like to his point, if somebody, is everybody on a calendar year with their lease payments? So if somebody rents in June, they need to pay 6 months? Or if somebody's lease goes September through August, November through October, June through July, is everybody's different?
So January 1.
So somebody
In
renting
the
mid-year,
mid-year, you pay that portion of that
6
year,
months.
and then you're back on
Yeah.
to
So
a
we
January
definitely
1.
need that language.
Yes.
let's say it's $30 a month or something. And I start June, let's just say July 1st, that's 6 months. So it's $180. But now, next year, he wants a 12-month payment, it's $35 a month. So now you're gonna take the 6 times 35 and add the 2 together, and That's the check that he wants on an annual basis.
Why don't you just go 12 by 35?
Correct.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
you're
what he's saying.
saying, right? Is again, you send out in January for the entire year, which means if somebody rents in June, they need to pay 6 months. Or let's say worst case scenario, if they rent in December, they get 1 month and then another invoice the month right after that for the next 12 months. So we need
So
to.
we're zeroing out in December, is that what I'm hearing here? We're zeroing out in December every year?
It's a calendar year.
Every
That's the way I
contract-
understood it at the last airport commission meeting, but that's all right, that makes more sense.
That's the best way to do it.
I'll agree with that.
Then we should.
That makes your fee schedules much easier to manage.
Everybody's gonna pay on June or January
January.
1st.
Then we should definitely include prorated rent in the first year of renting, type of thing, however that plays out. Again, with whatever payment schedule eventually is.
Lease B now? My questions on lease B we talked about before, the termination language being consistent. And then we can skip past the rental fee schedule, you're gonna provide that. And then same here with the next paragraph, the late penalty, monthly, or quarterly now. The 5% or $25 monthly language. Other than that, I don't have any. Sorry.
We gotta do 11A again.
Yep. Same question on maintenance, so whatever language put under the maintenance in that other contract, we could go in here as well. For upkeep.
Well, here's another thing too, gentlemen, we're talking, are we on the,
Sorry.
you're right. Well, okay, so you have a B and a C. Should we just get rid of one of them? And combine it, because one's for the new and one's for the old.
Simplifying.
Hangar storage area lease.
Absolutely.
Areas A and B, concurrent occupants.
Absolutely.
Which essentially is the same thing, there's storage areas in the existing DM building.
We should try to combine those two and eliminate the entire one of them.
That makes sense.
I would make a motion to direct the town attorney to incorporate lease B. I'm sorry. Incorporate lease C into lease B. And unify the language as we did between A and E.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion made by Supervisor Gieske, as stated by him, a second. Is there any further discussion on that?
Do we have additional changes to make on B?
Yes, the ones we already talked about.
Yep.
And other ones, they need to be consistent as to with maintenance of the building, updating the default to make sure it aligns with the,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. Now, I do have one other question, I'm trying to find what
I need to lessen the paperwork. Actually, this is.
So you can see how confusing it is when we have 5 or 6 different documents, so.
Just a quick question, storage area leases go with the T hangar leases on the schedule. On a schedule, you send out for a storage area lease, you send out an annual invoice, and they can pay again quarterly, biannually, whatever it is.
Here's a consistency question between contracts. In, on this B one, at the end of the default section, I'm sorry, in lease D, the airport, the hangar lease, at the end of the default section, there's a statement that says, if a default occurs, the lessor has the right to void this lease. But the other ones don't have that statement, and I think that's an important statement to include in all of them. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Didn't mean to jump ahead of you, but
So I guess I have a uneducated question to ask. Is it required that aeronautic use only happens at the airport?
So
So,
what do you mean? I guess
from the standpoint of this storage area lease, if you rent it out to Cal,
Outsider.
that's one thing. If I want to park a motorcycle in it,
a storage unit on the T
in
hangar,
a storage area lease on the T hangar,
that's fine.
that is okay. It's permitted, FAA, DOA,
That's a
DOA
storage-
says that?
ABC,
That's what it all had.
TFT. Nobody cares.
Storage units, you can do whatever you like with them,
Okay.
Have you rented that one yet?
yes. Both of them. There's 2 of them per unit.
Is it a different, I'm assuming it's a different
Lease?
rent amount than
Yes.
the square, like if you took a T hangar and said there's 100 square feet, and this is 50 square feet, this isn't half the price of a T hangar. Because this is kind of a whole different, this is like going up against John Maring's storage lockers, almost, in that case, versus anything aeronautic based.
So I can speak to that because I was in a disagreement with the board. My position was the storage areas can only be rented to pilots. The commission said, no, it's gonna be open to the public, and that's how it got voted on. So any Joe Schmo can come in and rent the storage,
So the
at
two-
this point.
The 2 that are rented.
Four total, 2 that we have and 2 that are coming.
Okay, and the 2 that are rented, are they hangar owner with pilots, or
He would know.
are they external?
The current 2 storage units are rented by pilots on the airport.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But the commission said they can be opened up to anybody. The
But
probability,
second
I don't know, we should maybe revisit it.
What I've seen done in the past in them is the renter that's got his airplane in there, that hangar, T hangar is higher priced, and he gets that to go with that hangar. He gets that to go with that storage unit.
But it'll be separate, it'll be separate, it'll be separate.
It's separate, it's going to be separate. But,
He's saying essentially to tie out the square footage so that you don't have to deal with that issue of somebody putting all
The
their
pilot,
crap.
the plane that's in that T hangar, he gets that storage unit, the wall ain't there, so that's all part of that one whole area. That's what I see.
The rent.
So it's just a bigger hangar?
Yes.
Well, okay.
With a different fee.
The commission,
With
you
a
guys
different
work
fee.
that out.
We'll work it out, we'll work it
You
out.
guys work that out.
Work it out.
But that T hangar is a higher fee because there's more square footage.
That's a good suggestion, we'll work it out.
No, it's gonna have walls, it's commissioned to be built as a separate unit.
You guys work it out. let us
Construction,
know.
it's not open, so.
I just wanted to make sure one way or the other that if we're opening this up to the public, number one, it's not against any aeronautic regulation. And number 2 is that if we're opening it up to the public, that we're not looking at it from a cost per square foot standpoint for a T hangar and more of a cost per square foot of John Maring storage lockers, because I can guarantee you he charges fair and houses, fair and full rather than high and empty is his policy behind that. But in the grand scheme of it, they're all full, which means somebody's, if they know and there's an opening, and obviously that has to, I'll say, get out. The word has to get out that you guys are looking, and more than likely it's gonna be pilots or. To that point,
The 2 new units, one is rented by, or has their name on or one of them is a pilot on the field, and the other one is very close to the field, nearly on the field.
So both of the new ones are also spoken for.
Correct.
One's a pilot hangar owner, and one is not.
Correct, but the other person is very close to the airport, so but it's not a pilot.
And
Good question,
from,
yes, sir.
suggestion. On the storage units, the strict FAA requirement is that you have an airplane. You can't use a hangar for storage. Now, we're talking about a storage unit that's defined as a storage unit. But my question is, what do you do with a storage unit that somebody does some manufacturing in and product manufacturing in, which is a safety hazard to the hangar and to airplanes?
That's not supposed to be occurring,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, but we haven't talked about that. We've only talked about an outsider coming in and running a business out of a small space. Not storage.
I understand.
Matt Koblenzer.
Yeah, I read the airport policy and it's written in there what you can and can't do on the ground, so I think that's already covered.
Okay, it was in my mind, it was a safety aspect. If you open it up to the general public, somebody says, oh, I can rent that, and now I'm gonna put in, welding equipment, or start manufacturing something, or, a safety hazard. And we only have a small wall, we only have a aluminum wall between the next T hangar.
The actual airport ordinance regulates that stuff, who can do this, who can do that.
Doesn't hurt to put language on it.
I can be wrong, obviously. But, I went to that DOT school, just like Jeff did, and I swore that they said that you couldn't have anything in the airport other than all air, plane related stuff. I swore that that's what they said.
That is correct.
Yeah, you can't, there's park a pickup truck in there and store it.
In the storage unit, you can't, because an airplane's not gonna fit in that storage unit, it's not big enough.
The wing would.
Half an airplane.
That's my dumb approach, is that doesn't have to be aeronautic based, if you have engines in there.
That could
You
be
have-
helicopters.
Do you have wings in there? Do you have, like, that's, I don't know what they're used for, I don't know who's in there, I don't know what they can be used for, and I don't know what they can't be used for. I agree, I know what they shouldn't be used for, and that's my concern as far as, if it doesn't say that you can or you can't.
I mean,
in
I guess
the
it's
lease.
defined as a storage unit, it's not defined as a workspace.
Well, that's the only thing I want to make sure that we understand that.
I mean, the other tenant we have is gonna store an RV in there. So,
I don't have anything else on D, do you?
No.
So,
Which one you down to, John?
D is in David.
we have, incorporating C into.
Oh, hold it, no, we didn't finish the motor.
Oh, we didn't vote.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion was made by Supervisor Gieske? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So D, hangar area lease, can I ask you a question? Why is it area lease versus land lease? Because they're actually leasing the land, right? Why does it call it area? That's my first question on this. Because the reason I say that is because, the reason that came up, because the T hangar storage area lease, it's storage area. But you're actually, to make it as strict, or strictly pertaining to what it is as possible, wouldn't this actually be a land lease versus an area lease?
Structure.
Yeah, there's some language in the property description where it had reference structure rather than talking about area, and I changed structure to land area.
Why don't we
Which
add
looks
the
like
word
we have
land
one.
in
Yeah,
front of
no,
area?
I have both.
But we could change it to land.
Yeah.
certainly.
Land
Does
area.
anybody have a reason to keep area versus land? Let's change that to land.
If the city owns the hangars, then the area makes sense, but it's land, in my case, it's land, because it's my hangar.
Right.
It's the land that exists underneath the concrete.
So it should, yeah,
Correct.
let's change
Or
that.
dirt. Well, that's dirt. Dirt. Dirt.
Sand.
Dirt is what we call it,
It's all
dirt.
sand.
Sandy.
Dirt lease. Hangar dirt lease.
So my next question is under term two. The blank there, with a maximum increase of no more than X percent every year. Is that in the fee schedule that we're gonna receive?
Cal, we did something with that. What was the